A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend. ChristiTutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with TheLibertyBeacon.com, and I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! A brief intro segment regarding Richard Lynch's appearance you're about to see. Welcome to the show, Richard Lynch, again for the first time. Yeah, laughing. What does that mean? Right? Huh? Well, Richard and I recorded this episode in 2024 that was supposed to air right before the election. But then Richard released God and Trump tune, which set the cancel culture crowd after him. So he came back again to supplant that episode we could then put before the election, which, again, you can see that at ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, anywhere podcasts are heard. The God and Trump with Richard Lynch episode that came out just before the election. So we put that there, and now this one got put off till now. So again, I joke, welcome Richard Lynch again for the first time. I think that makes sense to you now.
Hello, everybody. And first, before I introduce my guest, for those looking on BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, or YouTube behind-the-scenes video, even though this is mainly an audio show, I do drop the behind-the-scenes video. You might be wondering, why am I wearing a Rick Springfield shirt, of all things, as opposed to what I normally wear? Well, I've got a singer-songwriter on, and so I have a Rick Springfield from his Shock, Denial, Anger, Acceptance Tour shirt that was handy. So I thought, well, that's at least in the spirit of this show. So I'm wearing that, and I know you're all thinking, I wish that I had Destiny's Girl. Well, to me, I think that's one of his worst songs. I get it. I know it's kind of clever and cute and musically catchy. And without that, he wouldn't have been able to go on to bigger and better, I can't talk, bigger and better things like taking over the Effect show at MGM in Vegas when David Cassidy ended, and I saw the Rick Springfield version of Effects at MGM 5 times. So yeah, I'm kind of a Springfield fan, but I'm a big musical fan of all kinds of people, all kinds of different genres. But yeah, I thought I'd wear this shirt. That's why we have a musical guest. I thought I'd be in the spirit. So at any rate, having said that aside, welcome to the show, Richard, quote, the pin, unquote, Lynch.
Hey, Joseph, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for those who that joke may have went past, and I'm not insulting my guest, I'm just having a little fun with his name because name association. If I joke around, hopefully it gets his name to stick in your head a little easier, right? Richard the Pin Lynch, as in linchpin, right? Makes sense, right?
You nailed it. You got it.
Yeah, I've had another singer-songwriter on also, Eddie, quote, Yuda, unquote, man. Obvious, right? Yuda man. Obvious why I joked with his name like that. But yeah, Richard the Pin Lynch, singer-songwriter. So glad to have you. Like I said, I'm wearing Springfield, but yes, I am a Barry Gibb fan of the music, yes, but his writing, especially, he wrote and co-wrote with a lot of different people, a lot of different songs. People don't even realize he did. Also, in the notes, we're getting into it. Conway Twitter, not Twitter. Conway Twitty, growing up, yes, big fan of Conway Twitty. And you've got an album of covers, and your first single, Rest Your Love on Me, was penned by Gibb and Twitty, right?
Correct. Barry Gibb wrote the song, and then Conway Twitty had heard a rendition of the Bee Gees, and he was completely impressed with it. So Conway, being the traditional artist that he was, kind of revamped it a little bit. And of course, Conway, every song Conway ever recorded was a huge #1 song, or at least a top 5 almost on everything. So, back in the late 80s when that song was released, I was a huge fan of Conway, of course, and that's how I got acquired with the song or associated with the song. And, I spent the last 45 years playing traditional country music all over the country. And when it came down to narrowing down the 14 favorite songs, to be honest, pulling up the covers album, I knew I had to have a Conway song. There's no question about it. And I always loved Conway's delivery and his passion. And I said, you know what? Let's go with a kind of a country and a middle of the road country pop song that really struck a chord with the country. And that's the direction I wanted to go with that particular Conway song.
I want to back up a second. I meant to say at the opening and forgot, for those seeing the video, you could see Richard's video is a bit choppy. Hopefully the audio will be okay. That's the main thing, because he's out in the sticks, admittedly, and their connection, isn't a 1 gig fiber line like mine is. So we're making do. And then the other thing is, though, before we get back into the album of covers, let me back up and do who the hell is Richard Lynch, right? Born, raised, where you're at now, all those sorts of things.
Well, I live in southwestern Ohio, about 35 miles north of Cincinnati. So I'm down in the southwestern part of the state. Born and raised in a country music household. My dad was an incredible singer and songwriter and performer, and he influenced me at a very young age. And I live on a farm right now, and we love the agricultural way of life. We love the real traditional music. We even have a venue on our farm where we bring a Grand Ole Opry star once a month to our farm, June through November, the warmer months. It gets too wet and too cold in the wintertime. So we kind of lean toward June through November, have an absolute ball, and we're just doing our part to to keep real traditional country music alive out there. And this will be our 8th full-length Nashville studio recorded album. So we're pretty excited about, the fact that we got our music out there. And I didn't want to do a cover song early in my career. It's one of those things where you got to get a little gray hairs on you and show credentials and be like, you're in the business. And after all this year, I said, you know what, I'm finally going to go ahead and do this. And that's why I really decided that, I'm going to 14 of my all-time favorite. And we talked a little bit earlier but Conway had to be one of the 14, no question.
Another thing about the connection here is we have a little bit of a delay. So at least on the video, with the audio, I'll be able to cut out all the delays and dead airs, of course. But so for video, there'll be a little of a delay between him ending, hearing me say whatever, and then him talking and me hearing the end. And so there's that. And the other thing, though, is, and this is just a joke, I'm just going to play with you here a bit. I'm a Michiganian. You're a Buckeye. This interview is over. Can't talk to a Buckeye.
Well, everybody has their thing, Well, we just have a lot of love, and people don't realize how much traditional country music is fluent in Ohio. A lot of people that live in Ohio, they had their parents and grandparents gravitate from Kentucky and West Virginia and Tennessee after World War II, looking for employment. Dayton, Cincinnati, and Toledo, and so forth, and they brought their music with them, and I'm a testimony to the next generation of that, and and it's just something that people don't necessarily understand how affluent and how popular real country music is in Ohio.
Yeah. I grew up, my father and my father's father both had polka bands. My dad, Ted Leonard Jr., and the Polka Kings have 3 albums out there. But so I grew up in a musical family, and we listened indeed to polka music, country music, pop, rock, everything. My mother was even into Motley Crue. So I grew up on everything. So I like everything. And I even wrote and recorded music in my early years, but never got a record deal like my dad. So that's why I'm now a podcaster and an author, not a recording artist like you.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that, because, there's so many people out there that take a genre and that's all they do. But I'm glad that there's a lot of folks that have an open mind to, good music. Good music is good music, whatever genre you love.
Oh, I say that all the time. Like, I'm not a fan of some people. Like, I call her Lady Gag Me. But Poker Face is a brilliant song. I'm not a Miley Cyrus fan, but Wrecking Ball is brilliant. I don't know if she wrote that or just recorded it, but it's brilliant, right? Not to make it a sexist thing, I've never been a big Bruce Springsteen, as I call him, fan either, but Glory Days is a brilliant song. I don't have to like the person to appreciate some of their music, and likewise an actor or actress to appreciate their movie, right? I could separate the personality from the work. And so before I go too much further, I want to mention we're recording in July. This will air a month to later. So July 26th is when the album Pulling Up the Covers is expected to come out. So by the time people hear or see this interview, the album will be out, Pulling Up the Covers. And covers. I mean, a lot of people, I remember like Rod Stewart and others, a lot of artists eventually do covers. And a lot of fans get upset at times, but I like it. And again, coming from a musical family, I get it. You want to show appreciation of other things you like. It's not a cheat or cheap way to throw out an album. It's a nice homage to others. Yes?
Absolutely. That's so well put. I kind of touched a little bit on the fact that, I didn't want to do this early in my career. I've been doing this since 1978, and I've been recording for about 20 years now of that time frame. And even though you got a few gray hairs, and we've got a long acquired past of being in the industry, you just don't want to throw something out there until you establish credibility. And I have, in my mind, was 7 previous recorded albums, 5 of which I wrote all the songs on there. I just thought in my mind, my fans and the folks that's learning about me now, my new fans, would appreciate the fact that I have an appreciation for those older songs and basically my roots, to go back as a child and play some of the songs that I've loved as a child and just show appreciation for those. And the people that are hearing that song and the album are saying just that, how they appreciate the fact that we're, paying homage to those artists that you may or not hear anymore.
It's kind of a thing of, if not for them, in a way, or in a small part, if not a big part, you wouldn't be who you are and your music if not for them. Like, I remember back when Linda Ronstadt, who I was a fan of, people were used to her pop rock, she came out with an album of 20s and 30s music covers, and people were like, what? But I love that concept, honoring our past to know how we got where we are. I don't like opera, but that's another story. But yeah, it's nice to know, bring those back in a bit.
Absolutely, that's very well put. And I like that you mentioned Linda Ronstadt, because she was such a established rock artist, in the 70s and 80s. But a lot of folks may or may not know, but she also recorded a lot of traditional country music and had a lot of airtime. We have a radio show that we do every Saturday from 9 to 1, and we enjoy pulling up, some of the older songs that Linda Ronstadt had recorded. She actually recorded some old Hank Williams tunes and different things like that. So it's a joy and a fresh air to hear a different take on a song that we've heard all our life. You know what I mean?
I'm drawing a blank. I mean, one of her biggest early songs were kind of more country, and then she did better than more in pop. And again, groups like Van Halen, I remember the whole big fuss when Women and Children came out, and oh my God, there's keyboards on it. You're a heavy metal band. What are But again, like Sting too covers a whole lot of genres. And as a former musician, I haven't picked up my guitar. In fact, I sold it off in 20 plus years. I understand as a musician, you wanting to explore other things and not just do the same thing over and over, right? And sometimes fans don't get or can appreciate that.
Well, that's very well said. And we just kind of touched on it earlier, but if we keep that appreciation for our music, and we can venture out as to what genres we like to venture into, but always keep that roots music. I never forget where I came from, and I love the fact that I was born in a country music household, and I just want to make sure that I can represent that music to my best ability, because really there's a whole lot of traditional country music fans out there still kind of hungry for that sound.
Mm-hmm. And normally I wouldn't ask this question because, tell us the title of all the songs on your album. Wouldn't tell anybody anything because they're new, they don't know them. But in the case of a covers album, rattle off a few of the titles that are going to be on there that people are going to recognize.
Well, there's if you're a traditional fan, there's a take on a Mel Tillis album called Memory Maker. There's a take on my take on a Johnny Rodriguez song called Riding My Thumb to Mexico.
I remember that
Ronnie
song.
Millsap song.
I remember Johnny
There's a take on a
Rodriguez.
Ronnie Millsap song. Oh yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. Uh, Ronnie Millsap had his very first song in 1974, and it's called "That Girl Who Waits on Tables." And then I got a take on actually a Buck Owens. Buck Owens was a big influence of mine as a kid, and he had an early hit called "Made in Japan." I did a take on that one. And just older artists that made such an influence on me. I got a take on a cut on a Merle Haggard song, "If We Make It Through December." A
Oh,
lot of
love
people
that
remember
song.
Merle Haggard, of course.
Love that song. Love
And
it.
then and to conclude the album is a 14 song track on here. The 14th song is entitled "Till the End," and Vern Gosdin and Janie Fricke had a cut on that particular song, and those are the names that you're going to recall.
Yeah. Oh, I even remember Vern Gosdin. A lot of people may say, who? But I know that name. And if people vaguely remember the Buck Owens name, if you've got any kind
Yep.
of amount of channels on your streaming or your dish or your cable service, you should be able to find reruns of the old Hee Haw. Watch an episode of Hee Haw to refresh who Buck Owens was. I loved all the people you mentioned.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm, transcripts, and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcast, including ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters, the number 4, Deepcast Pro, the number 4 podcasters via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word.
Well, thank you, Joseph. That's nice of you to say, and that's the reason why people kind of gravitate toward the album, because it's a breath of fresh air, and they can sit back and say, "Oh yeah, I watched Hee Haw when I was a kid with mom or grandma," or they'll hear this particular song and I was with such and such in 1978. So we're making that connection from the past, and people really they remember things. It's amazing what a song can do to jog your memory from that time. You may not even think about it, what you were doing at that time, and then that song will come on, and like all of it comes right back.
That is another perfect additional reason and benefit to do covers, because exactly that. Music is popular with most people because indeed they are a memory association mechanism. People may not remember where they were on what date that something may or may not, the moon landing, as we're recording, we're dealing with the anniversary of the moon landing. People who were around may or may not remember where they were when the moon landing came on TV. Some may not, but most people, you hear a song and it will indeed spur some sort of recollection of where you were, or at least what state, what age you were, and the things going on in your life at that time. So that is a great another reason to do covers, to help bring back wonderful memories.
That's exactly right. And everybody can remember where they were when Elvis passed away, or everybody can remember when a certain activity happened in their life. They were getting married. Pick the the topic. But if during that time frame, if they can hear a song, they're going to remember that song from that time frame more than they will the event.
Oh, hey, and your video got a lot clearer all of a sudden, so that's great. People can get a better actual shot of what you really look like if they're looking at the BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, YouTube, behind the scene video channels. But again, this show is mainly audio carried on 20 plus platforms. But at any rate, so yeah, we're mainly an audio thing, and obviously music is, since the MTV age, of course, videos are now also associated with music that was always just an audio thing. Do you do any videos? Will there be a video of any of these songs?
We haven't done any videos for the current album, but yeah, if you go to our website, richardlynchband.com, you can pull up a lot of our music and our previous videos from the past 6 or 7 albums or CDs that we recorded. They're on all the social media musical websites out there. So yeah, that's the best way to find out anything and everything about me. You go on richardlynchband.com, you'll learn more than you want to know about me.
Well, I think we found out you're a Buckeye. That's all we need to know.
Yeah. Well, I got a little Eastern Kentucky influence. That's where my dad was from. So I got a little bit of that Kentucky in me too.
I think we hear that kind of in the accent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a little Southern twang, maybe a touch there. Yeah, I get it.
I'm going to stick with Richard the Pinned Lynch, or it could be, and I don't mean this derogatorily, as some do, right, the term, Richard the Redneck Lynch, right? Redneck is an endearing term to people who understand what redneck is. It's blue collar workers, farmers, people, roofers, people who actually their backbones help build this country. They're out there working hard. They wouldn't have that redneck and lobster arms if they weren't out there working hard. So a lot of people use it as a derogatory slang term. I think it's endearing.
I'm with you, Joseph. The folks that put their boots on every day and go to work, and whether they're a farmer or a builder or pick an occupation, if they're a hardworking American, man, they have my hats off and I salute them.
Amen. I'm absolutely with you on that. So tell us. Let's go to tell us a little. I know this is like asking who is your favorite child. So, but what's one of your favorite albums or one of your favorite songs from another album that you really, really enjoy performing all the time? Go anywhere you want with that question. I think you get the gist of what I'm asking.
Well, I appreciate the question. For me, being in the music business since 1978, I've recorded a lot and played so many live performances, but the most endearing, the most passion, the most enjoyment I get out of the music industry today is to take one of my songs that I created at the kitchen table, get into that studio and see it come to life and actually go into an album. And then it has, in your terms, a brother and sister or 12 brothers and sisters on that particular album, but they come from my heart. That is the most gratifying and the most self-rewarding aspect of the music business. Yes, I still enjoy playing live. We work an awful lot of shows around the country, but the most gratification at my age now is the fact that I can take a song, whether I write it or co-write it, and see it come to life, get in that studio and listen to those incredible musicians just absolutely feel the passion that I intended it to have. And I record a lot of my music at Beard Studios in Nashville. Those guys are absolutely phenomenal, from musicians to engineers to the system. It's just an incredible place to work. But I get the most enjoyment now out of writing my music.
All right, you had kind of dodged it a little bit. So let me ask it in a converse sense, because again, coming from a musical family, writing and recording music myself, and that, I've never had the experience like my dad. Ted Leonard Jr. and the Polka Kings toured all east of the, never really went west of the Mississippi, but all the states east of the Mississippi, they were all over the place. So I can get like and I've heard artists say this before, that, you know, that song, whatever it is, it was great. But really, I'd love to take it out of the rotation, but the fans demand it every time. It's like, I'm kind of tired of doing that song, but we gotta do it. Do you have a song like that?
Well, I do. I recorded an album called A Better Place album. Billy Yates was the producer out of Nashville. And there's a song on there called She's Got Me Drinking Again. It's an up-tempo, party-type song. And, I mean, you can't sit still when you hear it. So wherever we play, that song has to be played, because the folks that's been following us for years and years and years will not shut up until that song is played. We got to get up and dance, and they just have a ball. So I know what you're saying now. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Buffett, R.I.P. brother, going to doing one of his gigs and not doing Margaritaville, right? Whether he would want to or not, he knows he had to do it.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm picking up what you're setting down now.
Right. Oh, at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap this up, because if the shows are too long, fewer people will listen or watch, right? So yeah, I'd rather do a short time with you and reach more people, you know, quality, not quantity. I
agree.
Definitely a more quantity of audience by doing shorter. So you already mentioned RichardLynchBand.com, and of course that will be in the show notes. How else can people reach you? I think we connected through podcast guest. I think it was actually your publicist or PR guy that I happened to connect with. And I said, yeah, I love Barry Gibb, Conway Twitty. I love cover albums. Definitely wanted to have you on, but where else can people reach you?
Well, really, that's all I can tell you where to go is the RichardLynchBand.com. I mean, there's a lot of music, a lot of videos, a lot of content. I mean, album after album there. Pretty much the best place to go is RichardLynchBand.com.
Okay, yeah. And the other thing is, music is so different in this millennia than it was last millennia, with the advent of internet and everything online, as opposed to, if you wanted to hear something, you had to catch it on the radio, tape it maybe off the radio, or had to go buy the album. Now you go to a website, you can find virtually any tune you want.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot of YouTube channels too. I guess that's probably a better way to answer it. So yeah, the YouTube channel would be a really good place to find our music, Richard Lynch. You got to be careful with that Richard Lynch guy, because there's a scary actor that passed away a few years ago by the name of Richard Lynch. So we got Richard Lynch Band. That's why we didn't distinguish everything.
I'm glad you said that, because as an author, my books have Joseph M. Leonard on them as the name, right? That is my name. It's not a pseudonym, a pen name, or a nom de plume or anything like that. But there is a Joseph Leonard spelled the same, because my name looks French, but it's not. It's Leonard without an O. So I had to put the middle initial in there to indeed make that distinction and differentiation. And indeed, if you put my name in Google, you'll find a whole lot of Leonards with an O in there. That ain't me, right? It's like, so like, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't confuse you for that other guy. Yeah.
Well put, Joseph. Well put.
All right. Well, thank you, Richard, quote, the pen, unquote, Lynch. I hope you will have an album coming out in the future called Lynch Pin. Now,
wouldn't that be cool? You got my wheels spinning now, Joseph.
Yeah. Well, it would make sense, right? The Lynch Pin album.
There you go. I love it.
It makes perfect sense for you PR-wise.
There you go.
And I'm always thinking marketing. Well, thank you, Richard Lynch, for joining the show. Appreciate you being here. I'm glad your agent, your PR, your whomever it was, we managed to connect so that you could be on.
Thank you, sir. We'll do this again sometime down the road.
Okay, sounds good. Take care. God bless.
Bye now.
God bless.
Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come, but for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm. Transcripts, and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcast, including ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/DeepcastPro for podcasters, the number 4. DeepcastPro, the number 4 podcasters, via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word. Just wanted to give a brief shout out and thank you to all the folks on iHeartRadio, Player FM, being 2 in the top 3 platforms that my show, ChristiTutionalist Politics, is most often listened. So thank you all. Take care.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.